Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I'm here with Alexandra. We're going to talk about whether Tesla is going to do a share buyback. I'm opposed. I think Alexandra is in favor. Are you ready? Let's go. Alexandra, why are you in favor of a share buyback? Why does this make sense for Tesla and its shareholders?
First of all, I'm obviously for it because you're against it, right? Wouldn't be fun without it, right?
Right.
No, I mean, I wasn't surprised you would come back and say, oh, I'm against it, right? Because I'm for it. So here we go. Anyway, why am I for it? I'm for it for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think this is a perfect buying opportunity. Somebody who has money today should invest in Tesla stock. This is not financial advice, but I don't see anything out there that is in any way comparable. So if that is true for you and me, and if people, are as crazy, I wouldn't do that, but take a loan on their home to buy Tesla stock or whatever, why wouldn't it make sense to Tesla itself? Now, there are a couple of reasons why a company should not do share buyback. If you have better usage of your cash, don't do it. So my idea is the following. First of all, they have tons of cash. End of June, they hit 18 billion. So it's not as if there is anything missing today. Second, are we in a doomsday scenario? Well, for some we are. For me, I'm not. I mean, I hear all these pessimistic people telling us about nuclear wars and Berlin shutting down and China shutting down and I don't know what else shuts down. I mean, I'm quite an optimistic person and I always think we find solution. Humanity is dumb, but not completely stupid. I don't believe we're in a doomsday scenario. I do believe they're piling up more cash every single day. And the good use of that cash would be to buy back their own shares at this low level. Now, do they have enough cash to do that now? That's the whole question. So this is an arbitrage. This is financial engineering between shall they use this cash? How much of it is needed for future gigafactories? How much should they have as reserves? How much they want to do other projects like Bitcoin or whatever. You see, that's another thought I had. Would I rather have them increase Bitcoin or would I rather have them purchase stock back? And I mean, for me, there is no doubt about it. They should do a share buyback. And so there are a couple of reasons that came to it. And then I thought it through and I did some research on it. And maybe we'll talk about that in a second.
I would just say on the whole crisis theory, I think there are some crises that we should be concerned about when relating to Tesla stock. I think the threat of nuclear war, my concern about Tesla stock goes away. A nuclear war is something that, like, all of a sudden my investments don't really matter very much.
There you go.
If it's a, one tactical nuclear weapon, okay, that's not a big deal. But if we see a nuclear war escalating to a huge problem, then really is our investments our biggest concern at that point. Let's like hug our loved ones and hope we don't die is probably a better scenario than worrying about what's going to happen to my Tesla stock. But I do, so just the crisis scenario I'm concerned about is that we're having serious economic problems. We may be facing hyperinflation. We may be facing some sort of long-term deep recession. And I think Elon said that they have the cash pile. I don't remember when he said this, but I think he did say this at one point, that they want to have the cash pile to survive economic difficult times. And the cash pile isn't that big that it's easy to, it's enough, I think, that they can comfortably survive a difficult period, but more is better for that purpose. And I just don't think it's time, when you're in this high growth phase of a company, I don't think you're in that moment where you're paying dividends or doing share buybacks. I get the stock is cheap, buy it now philosophy, but it almost feels like it would be more of a stunt to boost the share price, which is totally contrary to how Tesla conducts itself, than it would be like a good business decision how to run the company. What am I missing?
I don't think you're missing a lot. I know that is valid. The question is only what to do with all this cash, right? And what to do with all this cash that's piling up. Just let it sit on a bank account for a couple of percentage when you can do something else, when the same amount of money could be well invested in the Tesla stock, for which you actually know the perspective is much more than we know. Now let's get back to Elon. So yes, in August in the shareholder meeting in Texas, he said, well, if free cash flow is stable, if the world gets to a more stable place, yeah, then maybe cashbacks are on the table, share buybacks are on the table. So that was that. The other thing Elon said a couple of weeks prior to that was that he thinks we're going into a mild recession. So he didn't think, and I don't think he has put that into question, that this is going to be a horrendous recession. I don't either. I think we're absolutely exaggerating. I think we're coming out all traumatized of the GFC 2008 to whenever. I think there are lots of people that have lost lots of money and are just so careful now. Obviously, the pandemic was something that was traumatizing to all of us because nobody had lived through a pandemic before, only very old people. And so the whole constellation puts us on our toes. And I think we forget about being optimistic in all these moments. We just see the bad. Now, the good thing about Tesla is they're executing. They're executing everywhere, and they are really piling up. Now, do they sometimes miss something by a little bit, or do they do something that on hindsight could have been improved? Of course. I mean, only people who do nothing make no mistakes, right? But the way this is set up, I do believe is a perfect moment to purchase back stock. And yes, I completely assume that, if it's cheap to buy it, well, then yes, it is also a mean to stabilize or even improve the stock price. What's bad about that? I mean, if we're now in a situation where we have to tell ourselves all the time, oh, Elon doesn't like retail investor, oh, Elon doesn't care about stock price, easy. Come on, we got our blood in this company. We all spent much too much time talking about it, doing stuff about it, investing into it, and all the rest. I think there should be some reward for retail investors. I don't like this idea that the stock price doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. There are people that are retired that rely on Tesla stock, right? Is that a clever idea or not? I don't know. There are suppliers that rely on Tesla that want to make sure that the stock price is good, that we got now this investment grade rating. But there are people on the periphery of all that need also to see this stock price stable or even increasing. So always just saying from a high horse, oh, we don't care about the stock price. What the heck? Yes, we do. I mean, I look at the stock price. I don't look at it on a daily basis with worry. But I really want the stock price to go up because it doesn't reflect reality. In reality, the stock today is worth 350, 400, maybe even more. And yes, we get beaten down all the time. And by saying, oh, Elon doesn't care about the stock price, we don't help ourselves.
I don't know if anyone is personally affected more by the share price than Elon. He owns more stock than anyone else.
Exactly.
But I don't think it's bad for it. When you say retail investors, I'm a retail investor, and it doesn't matter to me because I'm not selling stock.
Sure, I know, and don't give me your diversification joke with your three accounts.
No. What I'm saying is, if the stock price is low and I don't personally have free cash, but if somebody has free cash, then they can buy Tesla stock at a discount. Why would I want Tesla to raise if we believe that the stock price is going to go up in the long term and I'm a long-term retail investor, then I'm perfectly happy to buy stock cheap now.
Sure. But let's just say you would have to do a life decision of purchasing a house today and would have to put 20% down. Would you like today to liquidate your Tesla stock, or would you just say, well, I'm going to sit it out, right? I'm going to sit it out because I don't want to sell now. I mean, let's just face that there are people who don't have the capacity to have this long-term view forever. There are people that really need the proceeds of this stock, or at least need to see that the stock is going up to continue holding on it. Now, I'm the first one to yell at anybody on Twitter who is giving me the stupid thing like Tesla this, Tesla that. If you're paper-handed, if you don't believe in the stock, don't even trade Tesla. Tesla is a volatile stock. Tesla is a stock you really have to have. I didn't say balls, but I meant it to keep holding it, and you just have to go through these periods. And those of us who've long enough been in the stock don't even worry today. I mean, what the heck, 216? That's just it. But I do believe there has to be some reward for stock investors. But this is not even only about stock investors. This is really about intelligent financial engineering, meaning. Let me just get to the point that I wanted to make since the beginning, but I'm talking around it. I don't want them to use any of the 18 billion that were end of June on their cash account. I want them to issue more debt. That was one of the reasons why I was so much after this investment credit rating upgrade to investment grade. Why? Because that allows them now to issue bonds at a much lower spread because they're not speculative or junk rated. So they can get bond issuance at a competitive price. They can do what Apple did in 2013, meaning spread it over time. Apple at that moment did, I think, 5 or 6 tranches between 2 years and 30 years to optimize the yield curve. Or they can even do floating rate if that's what they want to do, but it will be at a spread that is not too high above treasury bills. And from there on, they use that money, which they got cheaply from the market, to purchase the stock. Because, I mean, if there's one thing I think we all can agree, no matter if interest rates are 4% or 5%, it still makes sense to borrow money to buy Tesla stock. So why wouldn't a company that can do that at extremely good financial conditions do it? Especially if you're an insider and you know how good this company is going to perform over the next couple of months and years.
Well, so when regular people buy stock, it's because they're planning to sell it at some point in the future. Unless, you know, you're playing some other weird games, you know, you're going to sell it, or your kids are going to sell it, and you're buying it to accumulate value over time. Tesla has a history of issuing new stock to generate capital or to reward employees or whatever.
Exactly.
I don't, just for me, fundamentally as a philosophy, I don't think a company should be buying its own stock. And you know, there's this question, like, in a sense, share buybacks are a way of returning cash to shareholders, right? Because dividends return cash to shareholders. Share buybacks, some shareholder is selling that stock to Tesla. So there's a form of returning.
I mean, no shareholder. That's actually a funny thing, because people ask me, so will I be forced to sell my stock? Not at all.
No.
They go into the open market and they buy what they want. And obviously more they are buying, more the price goes up, higher it will be. So the sooner they will start and the most quietly they will stop. So how does it work? How is a share buyback announced? Usually it's a press release, can be at any moment, and then follows an 8F SEC filing. There are 2 periods where they shouldn't do it, which is the last 2 weeks of each quarter, because that's, you know, where they know already the results, and the 2 days after earning reports, where they can't actively do it. Okay. So there are people telling me, well, will they announce it on the 19th? They may announce it, but they can't start the 19th and the 20th. Okay, they could start the 21st. So how does it work? Well, it works that you announce it, but you announce a maximum amount you want to do. And you may announce that this will take a certain number of weeks, certain number of months, right? You don't need to get to that level, and you don't need to spread it over all that time. You could do it the first day for the whole amount, or you could just do 10% of it and never do more. The flexibility of it completely belongs to the board of directors. They decide. They don't need to make public exactly what they do at the moment. That will change soon. The SEC has now a law proposal where they want this to become a daily reporting. So if Tesla would do this and this new law would come into action, then they would have to report every evening. Now, while this law is not in action yet, they only have to report it every quarter. So it is really a very flexible way. You just announce it once until that law is not in action. You don't need to do anything else. And then whenever you see the stock is cheap, you repurchase. Now, second chapter is, what do you do? Usually then they retire the stock, meaning the number of stock decreases, right? At the moment, I think we have 3.13 billion stock. And if they would purchase back, let's say the 1.3 at the end, well, we would be down to 3 billion stock. There's another way that somebody discussed with me the other day is you could also not retire it, but put it accounting wise into your treasury cash account. And there it is accounted for as a decrease in stocks, but they're still there and they can be used in further acquisitions if those acquisitions would be based on stock, right? Let's say, I mean, my dream is they purchase Redwood, right? That's my, I mean, in my craziest dreams, that's my scenario. They could do that rather than with cash, with these, well, semi-retired stock that they haven't retired completely.
Well, I mean, they could also buy. There's talk about them buying a mining company. Albert
Yeah, they could do that. Exactly. With the stock. If they do it with stock, that would be.
I have to ask you, why would you care if they buy Redwood Materials? I don't see why that would be a
Oh,
sense.
first of all, I would love that JB comes back. I love the guy. Just love the guy. I mean, he's just such an intelligent thing. I think there's also a chemistry between him and Elon that I've never seen with anybody else that just seem to trust each other so profoundly. My theory is JB would be a perfect CEO sooner or later for Tesla. I know he would have to get back into the bath of Tesla and get up to speed now. I also think Redwood would be a perfect addition to the whole Tesla cycle. I mean, there's so much talking for it, but it's complete speculation. I may be completely off this. This is, me going into my overthinking mode.
Yeah, I don't see that, but I think the other thing I just want to talk about a couple other things. So it's pretty clear that Tesla's going to announce they're going to build another gigafactory.
Yeah, there's enough
I
money for
wonder
that.
if they're really going to announce two gigafactories. It makes sense to me that they built Texas and Berlin roughly together.
Mm.
They learned from that. It would make sense to me that they would build two gigafactories together. That's assuming we're facing continued growth, that the next factories they build are going to produce vehicles that are highly compelling, and they believe. That's the thing. Like when you say we believe in our company, so we're buying our stock. You know what really says we believe in our company? We believe in what we're doing so much, we're going to build two new factories. Right. And we've got this robo-taxi vehicle we're going to build, and we're committing, or we're going to build, because I don't think it's necessarily limited to two. I think if they've got this new robo-taxi vehicle coming, okay, you're going to need a robo-taxi vehicle factory in North America. You're going to need a robo-taxi vehicle factory in China or Asia, and you're going to need a robo-taxi vehicle factory in Europe. Because if this vehicle is going to be so compelling, if you're actually going to nail this
But
robo-taxi thing, and
we had
that's
this
a huge
discussion
amount of,
before.
but that's a huge
I
amount of
understand.
capital that you need, which you could borrow to
Mm,
finance it, and they might get some local borrowing to finance some of it. But
mm.
that, like, to me, you built Berlin and Texas together for this new production system with structural pack and 4680. The next generation factory, why wouldn't you build three of them together?
Okay, so we've had this discussion before, and I'm coming back to my old points, and I know you don't like them, but let's just have I love having these discussions with you. I can fight with nobody as much as I can with you, so that's the good one. First of all, a giga costs currently between 2 and 4 billion. Okay, they have 18 billion on the account, so just think it through. These 18 billion are increasing every single day. My theory is, let's grow both Berlin and Austin first. Why are we after any stupid new site that will cost us lots of development? There is so much space in Austin. I think you can put 6 more there, if not 9. I don't remember them. Somebody did me a plan the other day. I already forgot about it. I'm sorry. I'm having such a little brain. But I don't see why we're suddenly running to Oklahoma or Kansas or I don't know what, when we have the most perfect site with the best engineers. That is so symbolic, where there's a headquarter now and have so much space there, running around the world putting more there. They should really concentrate on what they do. And so my question to you and to the market is, if they say, okay, we're doubling Texas, do you have the same satisfaction feeling as if they would say that they built the same gigafactory size in Kansas, where you would say, wow, great, now we have a new one? Because you should. Doubling Austin is exactly the same good feeling than building up a new one. Why suddenly be so maniac about having new sites?
Okay, so when I say building 3 new factories, I'm not specifying where they're built. As far as I'm concerned, if they were built in Shanghai and Austin and Berlin, that would be fine. But you still have that investment. I do think there are reasons why you build factories in other locations, and there's a reason why they're advantageous. Number one, on a business side, you might be closer to your raw materials or your suppliers, or you might be closer to your customers. And I definitely think there's an argument for they don't have manufacturing close enough to the Northeast or the East Coast. And, like my pet project is Giga Orlando or Giga Okayama, Giga Osaka or something like that. But, Giga Orlando, Florida is the second most biggest state for Tesla customers. It's 700 miles closer to the Northeast and all that. So there's advantages to that. But the other reason that people don't talk about, and it's very common in the defense industry, is you want to have operations in as many congressional districts and states as possible. So and that's why like Giga Kansas would make sense, because it's on the west. If it's in the west side of Kansas City, it's in Kansas City, Kansas. You're employing people in both Missouri and Kansas, and you're covering more congressional districts, and you end up getting more members of Congress on your side for whatever you want to do. So that's something people don't talk about, but that's very common in the defense industry, that you want your project built in as many congressional districts as possible, so you get more support for getting
So, so that's an
project.
argument for West Virginia and Manchin?
No, Kansas City, Kansas.
Yeah, but I mean, the one that you really need these days is Manchin. You don't need really the Kansas City people.
Well, Manchin is the short term. Right now, he's a swing vote. That doesn't mean he's going to swing vote next year. It's just you locate in Kansas City, Kansas, and you add 6 members of Congress and 4 senators to your people who are like now focused on all, and that's not small, right? If you ended up, bringing 3 more congressmen and 4 more senators in on, hey, Tesla growing is good for my district, good for my constituency, that's not trivial. Right.
So would you rather do it in Republican?
Sorry, that's better than
so would you rather do it in Republican states because of that? Is that?
No, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's you, Republican or Democrat, you want to draw them to your side. Maybe there's an advantage. You don't really want to be in Democrat states because they're not right to work states. So that's a challenge. It's bad. It's bad for those who don't know what right to work state means. It means you're very likely to be unionized, and Elon doesn't want to be unionized. But I just think that there's a lot of advantages to that. So there's a lot of different reasons. I'm just saying, from a business perspective, and this is the thing. Yes, we want to ramp Berlin and Texas, but we are ramping Berlin and Texas. And the next factories you're going to build aren't going to be operating for a year from the time you start moving the dirt. So by the time that happens, by the time the factory structures are actually built and you're ready to start building vehicles, Giga Texas and Giga Berlin should be fully ramped. And the people who build factories are done. And those people aren't doing something right now. So you've got all this engineering talent that are, you can take the engineers who helped build Giga Texas and Giga Berlin, and you can say, okay, now let's do the next generation factory. And you can get to, now they're probably already working on how are we going to structure the next generation factory. But you've got to get that ball rolling. And if you're looking at, let's say the next generation vehicle is going to be that much lower cost to build, that much, more margin, that much more efficient. There's all these advantages. And your goal is to grow as quickly as possible while the market is there for the taking, right? While there really isn't, there's always the competition is coming. While the competition isn't coming very fast, you probably want to grab EV market share. I don't believe in an EV market in the first place, but you want to grab market share as quick as you can. That's a very common thing in the tech industry. That's why Rivian's building a factory when they haven't even figured out how to build cars yet. They're building a second factory already. It's a strategy in Silicon Valley. Grab as much market share as you can while you can grab it. So, yeah, you got 18 billion, and I don't know that the 2 to 4 billion is really the total cost. I think the cost of getting these factories going is probably more than that. But I'm just saying that you have that, and then the other side of this is we were talking about what might happen. Elon says he thinks it's going to be a mild recession. I think that was before the Fed's latest move, and Jeremy Siegel was going on about how there's a sense that the Federal Reserve is trying to crash the economy. It's, and if they're really trying to crash the economy, they're really trying to drive down demand. They're really trying to wreck the economy for whatever reason. The more cash you have on hand, the easier it is for you to survive the crisis. Now, that might be a justification for borrowing money too. That might be a justification for borrowing money, but I just don't think a share buyback. I would rather see, as a shareholder, I would rather see Tesla investing in growth than investing in stock.
They will invest in growth. My theory is not at all. That's not hindering any investment in growth. Again, I didn't hear any of your arguments. I listened to them that are better to, I hear the congressional thing, but I think it's just so much easier doubling Austin or quadrupling Austin than finding a new site, going through whole procedures again. In Austin, they have their people, they have their political connections now. And they have the manpower, and they have the engineers, and they have everybody there now, rather than running around looking for another site. But that's just me, and I may be completely wrong. So let's get back to the share backs. None of the money that is committed to new gigas, that is committed to research and development, and all that should be touched. Let's just make this very clear. I don't want them to hinder any of their growth perspectives. If there is no money left, or if they don't want to borrow any additional money, well, then let's forget about share buyback. But I do believe, first of all, that there's money left, and they should keep that as a reserve. And I think they should completely borrow whatever they use for share buyback, because I do believe the trade-off of paying 5 or 6% of interest on a bond and use the exact amount for share buyback at these levels will be a huge financial reward for Tesla itself, and hence for us. And it will just decrease the number of shares. So just automatically, we all have a tiny little stake more into Tesla. And that's always good to have. I want to have more I can have. Here I am.
So let me ask you this question. Tesla borrows $10 billion. I'm making up a number. And they buy $10 billion worth of stock. How much does that move the stock?
I have no idea. I wish. See, that's why I have my crystal ball. See my crystal ball? So I go like, yeah, talk, and then it never talks, right? I mean, I bought it, I think, at the 99-cent store, and I think I should have bought it somewhere else. Anyway, that's a joke. But I don't predict stock price. I mean, 10 billion probably in intrinsic value adds $3 or $4. That's not a lot, right? That's just the calculation. But it's a completely other psychological feeling. It's like, oh, they purchase now because they know this is the bottom. They purchase now because they see the arbitrage. They purchase now because they studied Apple, because that's what Apple has been doing over the last 9 years, and they understood how to squeeze the market and how to play. I mean, you know how much I hate this financial gravy train, right? You know how much I hate these rating agencies, this bond issuance, and all that. This is all constructed and whatever. So what you have to do is either you ignore it, which I think Elon would love to, or you play them. That's your two options. There are not many other options other than that. Apple played them. Elon so far tries to ignore them. So the question is, does he step over the river and plays them as well? Or does he just continue to ignore them, thinking, what the heck, Tesla will convince, and it doesn't matter?
Okay, so another thought that I have is, there's all these retail investors that want Tesla to do something about the share price. And Elon, I keep seeing people saying Elon doesn't care about retail investors. And my attitude is, no, he cares about retail investors. He's growing the company. The best thing he can do for retail investors is grow the company, make profits, accelerate the transition to sustainable energy and transportation, all those things. And I think they're doing all of those things really well. But this idea that Tesla doing a share buyback is somehow going to boost the stock. I'll just take the media perspective for a second. What we imagine is the media is going to say, aha, Tesla's committed to boosting the share price, so they're buying stock, so this is going to raise the stock price. And my take on how the media responds to everything Tesla does is, aha, Tesla knows they're in trouble. They're playing some silly short-term financial trick to try to boost the stock. And I would imagine that is going to get more press than the idea that this is good for the stock.
Sure. I mean, we're back to our doomsday, right? I mean, if everything is bad, and if the media is bad, and everything is bad and worse, whatever, that doesn't prove reality. We'll have Q3 results. They'll be good. They may not be as exceptional as we all hoped for, but they will be really stellar. We'll have Q4 delivery and production numbers, which will be good. They may not be in the 500,000s. They may be in the mid 400,000s, but that's still exceptionally good in a market that is nobody else is expanding. They are. And we will always have negative press, right? Just because the press feeds of it. They put Tesla there, they get their clicks. There are enough Tesla haters out there to keep them busy all day long. So should we do something because or against the press? No, there's no point. I mean, fighting idiots there's no point. I do still believe this is not about getting good press. This is about signaling. We know, we're confident in this company. We know that borrowing money at 5% is a bargain to buy this stock. Let's do it now. Now, also know there are a couple of more technical reasons. First of all, this SEC thing that I just talked about, just at the moment, they have all the liberty to do this very silently over time. Second, as of 1st of January, from the Inflation Reduction Act. That's not reducing inflation at all, but you see, we're using this damn word all the time, but that is it. There's going to be a 1%.
The Inflation Expansion Act.
Exactly. There's going to be a 1% tax, excise tax on all share buybacks. So that's another burden. 1st of January 2023. Thank you, President Biden and his administration. So there are a couple of other things that I think they should take into consideration.
So sorry, if they wait until January to do it, there'll be a tax on the buyback.
1%.
Buyback before January 1st, there won't be a tax on the buyback. So if you were thinking about doing a share buyback, doing it before the end of the year would be a good decision.
There you go.
That one is a little bit compelling. That's one argument that makes sense to me. But my take on it really simple is buying stock in your company. Yes, it signals you believe in your company. Building more factories, doubling down on your business plans, to me, shows even more you believe in your company.
Sure. And I want all that. Read my lips. Didn't he say that? Read my lips. I want them to continue their rhythm of gigas and their rhythm of research and development. I want that money to be invested in growth.
We mentioned Q3. I think Q3 numbers are going to be good. Why do people think they're going to be bad? What am I missing? I mean, the delivery numbers, the delivery numbers were lower, so the revenue number will be lower, but we can see that ahead of time. Although I think average selling price is up, so the delivery number, the revenue number might be a little higher than people think, but the margins are probably going to be higher than Q2.
Well, we'll see. The thing is that the expectations came down. I think they're at a buck now, or $1.03, something like that. They were around 108 a couple of weeks ago. So we'll see. I mean, I'd rather go into it with expectations lower and then beat them than have high expectations and go down again. I mean, how the market is. They don't compare to any reality. They don't see how much better it is. They just compare to the stupid expectations that are running around. So I'd rather have expectations lower. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just also number one, yes, deliveries were a little bit lower than we hoped for, but again, average selling price being higher, that will probably make up a little bit on the revenue side. But also, I think there were a substantial number of megapacks delivered in the third quarter.
Yeah, from energy.
And that might be like $2 billion in revenue on top. That has not been a significant contributor in revenue, and I think it may start becoming a significant contributor in revenue.
Sure.
And with their new megapacks and what they're doing, they may actually start be generating significant margins because they did turn profitable recently on energy. So I think, and Q4 is going to be better. We may hear. That's actually what we should be asking on the Say Technologies thing is what are the prospects for Tesla? And that's one of the questions we should be asking. What are the prospects for Tesla Energy in Q4 and 2023? Megapack production. I think I need to get that. I need to pay. When do we know when the Say Technologies question is going to be open?
I think it must be any day now because we're so close to it, right? We're the 12th. That's a week now.
Yeah, I got to be monitoring my email closely to watch for that because I want to get my questions in early. I think we've covered the share buyback thing. I don't think.
Can we agree that I won? Can we agree that I won this one?
You win every time. You always win. But you didn't persuade me. Just to be clear.
Oh, there you go.
You always win. But I'm not persuaded. For me, fundamentally, I think they need to have more cash on hand to weather a storm, and I think that I would rather see them invest in building more factories than invest in stock. I don't really like them borrowing. I do get, borrowing is cheap compared to growth, but I think you make a compelling case. It doesn't compel me, but apparently it compels others. And I don't know if it's going to compel Elon.
Oh, no dreams.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate all you're doing in the Tesla community. You're making a big dent in a very good way. Somehow you've got Gary Black and Ross Gerber engaged in conversation, and that's going really well. So I'm really enjoying watching all that.
And it's all thanks to you, right? You wouldn't have put me on a couple of months ago. There would have been nothing.
Okay. Well, I'm flattered. I think some of it might be you. I think you might bring some value to the table. So
A little
thank you
bit.
very much.
Can you do me a favor? If we get a share buyback, do you put a point on your t-shirt saying that's what Alexandra said?
Maybe, maybe if the stock goes up after the share buyback. Before you get to my stuff, you have a Substack, and I'll
I
put a link to
do.
that in the description below. Do you have a YouTube channel now?
Oh, tiny little thing.
I'll put a link to that in the description below, and I'll put a link to your Twitter account, which is where I think you do a lot. And then for everybody else, please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. We are at the dip now. We're at that dip now. T-shirts at elonbits.com. Please check out my other videos. Please support this channel on the Locals platform.
There you go.
And everyone, thank you so much for watching.